The following is a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.
Good morning. You're on.
Hi.
Kurre and Klapow show back here on a Thursday morning. Big days on Thursday mornings. Of course, we do the Kurre and Klapow show. We'll just talk until we run out of shit to talk about. I have been a little after 8 o'clock. We got to be on Fox 6 at 9:35 this morning. We're going to be talking about Mike Leach again. Putting a bow on that. I guess it's kind of,
Yeah.
you know, you grieve at your own rate. So some people, you know, what's interesting too is when you're talking about someone that you knew,
And you did.
and then right afterwards you start hearing stories about other football teams trying to get their players to enter transfer portals, which was kind of like, come on. The Clarion Ledger, which has been a newspaper over there forever, posted a story about introducing their new interim head coach,
I saw that, yeah.
which is kind of like, the body's not even cold yet. Can we just?
Well, no, but you had
but that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
I mean, things move at a really quick rate, and then the news cycle just goes by so fast now.
Yeah.
And for stuff that may take you or I or someone else a couple of weeks to kind of get over, or at least a couple of days to get over.
No,
I did 5 interviews yesterday. I was in Tupelo, Chattanooga. I was in Nashville twice, and I was at a station in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Talking about our relationship, and it gets easier as you go. But we just live in a world where things go so fast, unless, of course, you have internet service here at the Kurre radio station. So this morning, I was...
Is it just down?
We had the storms and stuff yesterday, and of course I get on there, it says you're not connected to the internet. And I'm sitting there looking, and this is not a get off my lawn.
Yeah, it is. Well, it kind of is.
I understand.
Welcome to the Tony Curry, get off my lawn.
I understand that we live in a technical world, and I'm embracing that. I have a technical business.
You do?
So I have to love it.
Look at all these technical things.
But when you're paying for something, it should be right.
You're right.
And then you get on these chats, right?
Oh, I love the chats.
When it says a chat,
is it
great.
an automated chat or like a real person?
Oh, that's all automated.
No, well, they're not necessarily.
No, it's all automated.
No, they're not all. This was an automated. How can I help you?
How can I help you? And I wrote down this thing, and then they give you 3 things with articles.
Yeah,
and all kinds of other shit. I'm like, I don't want article. I don't know why my internet's not running. Right. So then it tells me to run a speed test.
Yeah.
Which is really kind of cool. I didn't know how you did that speed test. So I ran a speed test, and it ran like 177 megabits or megabytes or whatever.
Upload, download?
Upload. Download,
you know,
whatever it is, 176, and then the next one
was
was like, you know, and it said your internet is super fast. Well, I'm paying for 500 because we do television here, we do internet here. Robbie Glenn, good morning to you, my brother. How you doing, man?
Was this your internet provider's speed test?
No, I went to Google.
Okay, good.
So it was, that's good.
Independent third party.
Yeah, and it did say that it was running really fast.
That's great.
But I couldn't Wi-Fi on my phone. It's the world we live in. I don't think we really. But here's what old people do: we unplug it or turn it off, and we plug it back in, and it usually works.
But that's not old. Talk to any. So you know that's the thing.
Yeah.
You talk to any developer, talk to any electrical.
But you turn it off and turn it back on again. I'm like, seriously, is that the shit? Is that? You can turn it off and turn it back on again. I'm like, really? Would it be great if we could do that? If we could just turn us off, like we're having a bad
that's what we always
turn it off and turn it back on again. It runs like a dream.
Well, Lance Croft from WBRC, right? When we were having all his technical problems, he's like, just turn it off, turn it on. No.
I had the same problem with my board a couple weeks ago. I couldn't do a Zoom call, and I was like, turn it off, turn it back on again. And
boom.
Yeah, it's just you know, and then of course I'm like, I'm paying for this.
Yes.
And I expect this, and they're like, well, let's isolate the problem. So then they're talking about unplug the Ethernet cord from the thing and plug it into your computer, and then we can. And I was like, listen, man, I'll pay someone $100 right now to drive their ass over here and do this.
But they can't because we're not open yet.
I know. That being said, here we are on Facebook, and we're going down.
See,
we got join us this morning.
You look like Rumble.
By the way, we're going to have a video board.
Yeah, because this looks like you look like
set up so we can see who's contacting us. But I see we have Paul Phillips join us, Derek Scudder.
Good morning,
Derek. By the way, I miss you at the UAB basketball games. He did all. I was down there for the game last night with you.
Yeah,
and we had a night out. It's good to see you.
I'm still recovering from taking ketchup out of your pocket.
It was great. I stuck ketchup in my pants and had to go get it. I missed Derek Scudder doing the PA announcing at the games. And I'm not sure why he's not doing it anymore, but I loved hearing him do that stuff. He's writing
So
something.
much like I swear this is like Ron Barone.
Yeah.
I see you, Derek. Who else what other friends?
First down. Derek's been doing that stuff, and he's really, really good at it. And I don't think people realize. I did PA announcing for a few years.
I can't imagine.
To get through an entire game without ever stumbling is really, really, it's talent. It really is. And he was perfect every time he did his games. If you ever hear Derek Scudder doing a PA of a game, you know it's going to be good. Anyway, and I worked with Derek for a long period of time. So anyway, it's been kind of a crazy week.
It's been a really crazy week.
Yeah, Robbie Glenn just came on just a few minutes ago, and we had a big meeting. And I think you can mention this.
Did you see what Al Cooper put?
What did he put down there?
The classic TKR, classic rock and tech special.
Yeah, and he put it in caps so I could read it. Yeah, Al, he's so good. Al from Coosa Valley Autos sales, and also the Blue Herring, which is he's got a new shop. He's a smart guy. He's got a used car lot, right? Mm-hmm. And I saw the movie Used Cars a couple of nights ago. Man, what a great movie. If you've ever seen the movie Used Cars, go watch the movie Used Cars. It's hilarious. Anyway, so he's got this good thing going on at the car lot, and they're killing it this year. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're on Tony Curry Radio and the network, because we talk about them. But then his lovely bride opened up this little craft shop where they go around and they do picking. And they got some really cool stuff.
Next to the car lot?
Right next to the car lot.
Smart.
So while he's buying the car...
Super smart. That is good business.
Yeah. And
that is a great idea.
It's open 10 to 4, 11 to 4, something like that, Monday through Friday. So you go over there. So some people are going to the Blue Herring trying to get that one-of-a-kind gift for Christmas, and they go, oh, you're selling cars over here, and they do a great job. And that's the first car dealer I've ever had on Tony Curry Radio, and it's because I believe in what they do. So they're kind of going back and forth. It's pretty smart. He's gonna own that entire block before too long.
You need some cookies too for the kids.
Probably.
Because the kids always get bored.
Yeah.
No matter how fast it is, kids get bored when you're looking for cars.
And it's not that far of a drive. It's not so bad.
No.
So anyway, we've had quite the monster week here. We'll be doing some new shows today with Stuart Rome from the Woodhouse Day Spa, birmingham.woodhousespas.com. I still have a gift card.
You need to get your ass in there.
I know. Dr. Josh gave me a wonderful... I'm going to go next week, I think.
You know, I almost asked you to help me move a desk.
Yeah.
But, you know, my kids are home. Or actually, my daughter was home. And you were coming over, and we had to move a desk upstairs. And they said, why don't you just get Tony will help?
I'll help you.
Yeah. And I said, well, no, he's got a fragile neck and fragile back, and he hasn't been to Woodhouse yet. And I said, so I just want to do it. So my daughter, Adair.
You get to a point where your body is just going to be what it is, and so you just work through it.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you know you do.
No.
By the way, today is the last day to get healthcare on healthcare.gov.
It is.
Hey, listen.
I have a thing. Do you know what today is? Did you already do your what today's are?
No, my internet.
Okay, Don Johnson's birthday. I can't remember how old he is.
He's like 74,
okay.
75.
And today, 75 years ago today, the transistor was introduced in Silicon Valley.
Really? 75 years ago?
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep. You know why they chose Silicon Valley? Because the Nobel Prize winner, which I'm blanking on his name, who sort of developed it, wanted to expand it and wanted to do something with the transistor. And his mom lived in Santa Clara in California, so he just moved there.
Really?
And then he was like, oh, look, Stanford and Berkeley. Oh, look, there's a bunch of smart people. And, oh, look, we have a government agency here, got Moffitt and Moffitt government. And, oh, we'll just stay here. That's how Silicon Valley developed. I mean, it was sort of happenstance.
You know what's really crazy about that? I'm glad you brought that up, because I saw our good friend Scott Register from Reg's Coffee House.
Yeah.
And was it Red Mountain Radio, Birmingham? What's it called? Whatever, the internet radio station thing they started. Red Mountain Radio, Over the Mountain Radio, or something like that?
Red Mountain. Dead Corpse?
So I apologize, because I should know that. Anyway, they just celebrated their 12th anniversary.
Yes, I saw that.
And you're like, 12 damn years, that's a long time.
No, not for Reg's Coffee. Reg's Coffee House is what, like...
Well, he's been around forever, but I mean, he started with that radio station, and when 107.7 went off the air, they went off and did their own thing, and he's beloved, and everyone loves him, and for good reason, because he's a great guy. I've tried to steal him and bring him over here. But 12 years, and so I met with Rock and Roll Sushi on a Tuesday, with Robbie Glenn, a friend of mine. I met with this wonderful woman named Lauren who does a lot of their marketing and stuff. And I was like, it's crazy for Tony Curry Radio and Rock and Roll Sushi not to be in partnership. We got to be in bed on something. So we're working on doing a deal. And I think we'll make that happen in 2023. And then you go back, because I hadn't really heard about Rock and Roll Sushi until about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Would you agree? And they're expanding big time. They've been around since 2010. And so, I was talking to a friend of mine down in Miami this morning. He's doing some business down in Miami. He was sending me some pictures. 8:30 in the morning, there's tea bags on the beach, and I'm like, dude,
it's warm.
It's crazy. And he was going to a Starbucks. And I started looking back to see how long businesses have been. Starbucks has been around for 50 years. I mean, sometimes it just takes time. You don't ever hear a business that is just explodes, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, and then you realize they've been around 10 or 15 years. They've been working at getting to that explosion for 10 or 15 years. And so for like a Rock and Roll Sushi has been around for a long period of time. I mean, they're finally getting, what they deserve. They're reaping what they sow. It does, but I mean, I think a lot of times in this world we live in, where things are just constantly going, unlike my internet speed, that you're kind of
well, because it's not only are things going fast, we're privy to so much information, good, bad, whatever. It's just like this tidal wave of information, and I think because of that, things like Rock and Roll Sushi it gets lost in the noise, right? Just because you're feeding through a bunch of other stuff. There's things, and the other thing that's interesting is we get we're not very good. Our brains are not very good at estimating time and time passage, particularly when there's different times coming. So something that happened yesterday, and then we get breaking news that happened, something happened a week ago, and then it happened a year ago. We don't do very good at parsing that out, so we just all kind of lump it together.
Yeah.
And so we'll go, Rock and Roll Sushi, it's brand new.
Yeah.
Brand new. Well, no, it's been around forever.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
So this week we had the passing of Mike Leach.
Yep.
We talked about that. We have a wonderful podcast. You're hearing a lot of, and this is what I meant to say earlier, where people were already playing like some of his favorite clips, like right after he passed away. And I know they meant it in a respectful kind of way, but he was goofy and eccentric, and he talked about chasing raccoons and how he used to love ducks. So if you go to Tony Curry Radio Podcast, and that's Curry with a K, Tony Curry Radio Podcast, we put together a podcast of exclusive interview questions and answers, which are hilarious. For Mike Leach, we interviewed him 50 to 100 times. And these are, they're viral to us, but I mean, some of his quotes and stuff that you won't hear anywhere else. It was exclusive to the Kurre and Klapow show and to Tony Curry Radio. So if you get a chance to listen to that, check it out. It's hilarious. And he does go off on a lot of different things. Did you know he hated to drive?
He what?
When he was in Pullman, he rented a 900 square foot dorm when he first started coaching there, so he could walk.
Was he afraid of driving, or just didn't?
He just didn't like to drive.
Okay.
And so he would walk across a couple of lentil fields.
They grow lentils in Pullman?
They do.
That's interesting.
And I know, right?
That's a little...
And he would walk to work, and he'd get there around 9, which for college football coaches is like the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm the boss, so when I get here, that's when we start.
God, he was so great.
But he'd also stay up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
And then there was one morning where he got in at like 11. And people are like, where you been? And he's like, I found some raccoon tracks in the snow, and I wanted to know where raccoons live. So he walked like 3/4 of a mile. 3/4 of a mile in his Dockers, and he's walking through these lentil fields. He lived several hundred yards away from his office, and he kept walking. He just followed the tracks until he found a little burrow, and then found out that that's where raccoons lived. He wanted to know where raccoons lived. Then he got in at 11 o'clock, and people were like, okay.
He's a guy. He was a guy. You see this sometimes. You see two kinds of people in business of all kinds. One group is they're dialed into their business. That is all they live and breathe. They may have other interests, but you never know about them, and it's really it dominates 80% of their time, their time, or their brain time. Maybe 70%, and they have their family, and that's it. And that's what we see a lot of. I mean, you see a lot of in coaches, and you see in CEOs. It's this, it's this, it's this. Then you have this other group of people who I find much more interesting. Mike Leach. They usually are brilliant. Not that people who are doing the other way aren't brilliant, but they're brilliant in a different way. And they have lots of interests. And their business at hand, they're able to focus on it, but it's one of many things that interest them, that spark their curiosity. And I think, Coach Leach, he just embodied that in a way that I don't know that I don't know all that. I can't think of another college football coach or even NFL coach, because a lot of times when we hear that they're doing other things or interested, we go, oh, see, they're not dedicated to their job. They're not dedicated. They're not dialed in enough. And Coach Leach has said it. He has said, these are other things that interest me.
The thing is, though, and people are like, well, we ever see a coach like that again? I don't know, because coaches are 24 hours a day college football, and he wasn't.
No.
And could he have been? I mean, he's 2 times National Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
The guy was super successful, and you could certainly make an argument that his last season at Mississippi State was maybe one of his most successful, because he won 8-4 in the SEC, which is never easy. If you could win 8 games every year, if you're Sam Pittman, you're going to be at Arkansas for the rest of your life. You win 8 games a year in the SEC. But he didn't allow himself to get enveloped into that grind of, because I think he realized, hey, listen, this is the best I've got. It's not to say he couldn't do better tomorrow than he did today, but he was. And you bring up a great point. I know you're not a reader, but I don't know anybody that's not a voracious reader that's not brilliant on some level. No,
you're right, and I'm not.
Maybe brilliant in their own mind, it's just. Maybe they're just happy with who they are.
Well, it's also okay. So there's a couple other caveats to this. There are definitely people who are passionate about learning. They call them lifelong learners, but learning about all kinds of things. And they tend to be the ones who are readers, right? Because their minds are going, I want to know more about this. And it's not always nonfiction stuff. They want to learn.
Yeah.
My son is that way. My wife is that way. I am not that way. I get passionate. I'm the dialed in guy, right? I get passionate, and I'll read everything and study everything about something that piques my interest. But I don't have 50 different things like Mike Leach.
Yeah.
And, if you looked at Mike Leach's journey to here, I mean, how many coaches do we have who are also lawyers?
I know, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I can't think of one.
Yeah, I mean, and he's just a different kind of cat. I see some CEOs this way that I work with, and it's really interesting because, again, like we're talking about football coaches, there's this perception from the outside that if you're not obsessed with what you're doing, then there must be something wrong, or you're not going to do as well.
Yeah.
I can tell you this, it is quite possible to be completely dedicated to your job, completely dialed in enough, and have plenty of other bandwidth to do other things.
Well,
but not everybody can do that.
I know, and
not everybody. Yeah.
I always think it's interesting when I hear a guy who plays professional football, but he's also an accomplished piano player, and he speaks 3 languages.
Paul Gasol, right? He was a concert pianist who Pau Gasol just came to mind. Pau Gasol, former Laker, right? Both parents were physicians. Okay. He wanted to go to medical school. That's what he wanted to do, but he was like 7 feet tall, and they're like, you should really you could do that in your spare time. And a classically trained pianist who, like, that's what he, besides being an all-star and a great thing, he did all these other things. He just did all these other things.
Yeah. We talk about bandwidth. We talk about internet speed. They say we use, about 17% of our brains? You think that's...
I don't know. I think
I don't know if we use that much. I really don't.
Sometimes I feel like I'm not much like I'm using it all.
Yeah.
I don't know that we only use 17%, because I think that's a hard thing to estimate.
Well, yeah. I mean, it is. But, at the same time,
I
envy people like that.
I do, too. Sometimes I have some resentment.
I do have resentment.
There's
no doubt.
Yep.
It pisses me off when people seem to find time for all these other things they do, and I'm just trying to sometimes just get through the day. But yeah, he did it all. He
and he wasn't afraid. Here's the other difference, I think. Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban, all of them may have all kinds of other interests, and then we get little glimpses into other things that they do, but for one reason or another, what we see of them is all football, right? I think the difference with Mike Leach is he had no problem telling you about, talking about whatever was on his mind. Mm-hmm. He was also, he's quite eccentric. Eccentric is not a bad thing.
No.
But he was quite eccentric. And, in every interview, anybody who ever comments about any interview that they've done with him it's always about, he goes off on 6 different directions that have nothing to do with football.
Yeah.
But it's because that's like just where his mind went.
I don't think he liked to talk about football. I think he loved to talk, but he liked to talk about all kinds of different things.
Yes.
And football was kind of like, and it just so happens we knew him as a football coach. Had he become a lawyer, where he went to Pepperdine, then that would have been, if you get a law degree from Pepperdine, you're doing okay. But he wouldn't have been famous that way. I don't know. I think he enjoyed the fact that people thought he was kind of quirky, and that we all have egos. And I think he knew when he was going off on a tangent sometimes that people were going to follow that. He loved. We did it on our show, and you'll listen to it on our Mike Leach podcast, on Tony Kurre Radio podcast, wherever you listen. Whenever we did an interview, we want to talk the X's and O's about Mississippi State football or Texas Tech and so because that would get him in the door. And then rather than go, okay, coach, let's talk about relationships. No. That didn't work. You had to kind of let him take it in that direction. Then you start asking questions because you knew it was coming. Because no one listened to Mike Leach just to talk about X's and O's. That's boring. You can get that with any coach. It's the same coach speak you get from everybody.
And he would seem bored somewhat.
Yeah.
Talking about the X's and O's beyond what he wanted to say.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what it was. It's here's what I'm going to give you. I'm not going to give you anything else.
Yeah. For
whatever reason, whether it's interest, whether it's strategic or whatever. But this one, God rest his soul. But I got all these other things that I don't know. Here's a mic. I'm going to tell you about other things. And that's what was so great.
Yeah. Kurre and Klapow show. You can listen to it. Sorry, I didn't turn off my Do Not Disturb, so we're getting some messages come across the board.
I saw that was a spicy one. Man.
Something about saying I love you or something.
I saw that.
I love that from some girl named Emily. I'm getting all these stupid
I know you did.
things. I'm not following these people. I don't know.
Did you buy your check mark yet?
I did not buy my check mark yet.
You can also buy now. God, he's monetizing, flipping everything.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see you can buy?
Give me a gold
You can
check
buy the opportunity. You can buy an ability to edit, not just delete.
It's pretty brilliant.
So in like Facebook, Instagram, if you go in and you do a post, if you can go in and edit it.
Yeah.
Twitter, TikTok, you can't.
Yeah.
It's up or delete. But in Twitter now, you can buy your way. You can buy a check mark.
Yeah.
With new criteria, what do you put? But you can also, it's like cable.
Yeah.
Basic Twitter, or if you'd like to be able to edit yours, it's an extra.
I had a meeting yesterday downtown at Style Advertising, which is run by a bunch of people I've known in the radio for a long time. Chuck Cargill's one of the guys, and Monty Ballard, they help with Kip Kiefer's show, Need to Know and Want to Bet. And we were talking about branding Tony Kurre Radio and taking it to another level and stuff. Dude, the meta thing is like, we kind of dove into that. We did some advertising on Facebook. We continue to do some things like that. You don't have any clue how deep that stuff goes. It's
and they have specialists. This is why they have companies and people study the algorithms. So, but then again, people like me started Deer Chronicles, and then you got nothing to worry about. My family.
We all went to Deer. How many followers you got now?
Almost 2,000.
Yeah.
No ads.
Where can they find it on Instagram?
No, it's Facebook. Go to find Josh's Deer Chronicles on Facebook.
Josh's Deer Chronicles.
Yeah, and my kids were like, both of my kids were like, you put all this effort, all this time into your Instagram videos, TikTok, trying to help people, put good information, and it is my passion.
Yeah.
And they said the same thing. You're like, Dad, you put up flipping pictures of a deer in the backyard, and now you have this entire following. But
pretty cool.
But I think that's the wonderful thing about what we have.
You have found a sweet spot. You have found something
Yeah.
that people really enjoy. What do we always say? People always want to see deer and boobs. Period.
I got a one antler deer this morning.
A one antler deer?
Yeah.
Is it a unicorn?
No, it's just critter.
Yeah.
Critter, like we like saying, how's that critter? It just like something happened to the other antler.
Yeah.
It's just gone. So he's got this one gigantic.
He's right.
I feel sorry. I feel as if he's probably teased.
You think so?
I don't know, because he kind of seemed kind
Could be
of.
the new Rudolph.
That's right. Do you want to also, just so we should put it out there, Steven Twitch Boss, who was a beloved everything for Ellen DeGeneres show, but not just that, dancer, DJ, musician, I mean everything.
He did everything, yeah.
Found out yesterday he died, at least the report is by suicide, 40 years old. If you follow him or if you're anything on TikTok, he and his wife and his kids, but particularly he and his wife would do these really cute dances together, fun, love. You looked at them and it was hard to not really believe this was a happy couple family. Sometimes they're just putting it out there. And everyone in the show, people who knew him, Justin Timberlake was talking about it. Nobody had a clue. And he posted a video that morning of his family and him and the Christmas tree, and several hours later checks into a hotel and dies from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And I was thinking about it. I did an interview about this last night. And everybody's commenting on saying the same thing. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. But I have to say something about that, because on the one hand, that's what you're supposed to say, and it's true, and we put it out on social media. But I was thinking about it this morning. I was driving over. What does that say about what are we supposed to do to help people if you never know?
It's a great question.
Because we always say, make sure you check in with people. If somebody looks like they're a little bit down or a little bit off, and I've done videos on this, don't be afraid to say, hey, how are you doing? But you don't do that for somebody who seems completely fine.
Yeah, there's usually some red flags. There's something where it's kind of like, but it's hindsight.
Yeah.
It's after it happens, you're like, oh, last Tuesday. But if for the most part, here, and I'm glad you brought this up, and we like to keep it light and fluffy here and have fun too and laugh a lot, but we're here to be of service too, and it is the holidays.
Yep.
It is so easy, to fake it till you make it thing, and I know you hate that saying, but
oh sure.
And what we mean by that is you can't fake it and then it's going to make it. Mm-hmm. Some people will say if you're not into it or you're feeling having a bad day or whatever, fake it, and then you get through it, and then you'll deal with your stuff in the background.
And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to do that.
If you're going through clinical depression or you have some type of psychological issues, if I say I need 15 minutes from you, they can pull it off.
Oh, sure.
You could be,
yes, absolutely.
Can't get out of bed, can't eat, can't shower, can't do anything.
Yes, right.
And you got 15 minutes and they can pull it off.
And that's people need to understand that.
Having been around a lot of that in my immediate family, and my mother suffered from depression for 50 years, she had no reason to fake it because she didn't have to. But it's funny because people come over and say, hey, I saw your mom today and she seems like she's doing really well. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how when a neighbor will come over, how they can snap out of it briefly for 10 or 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then
it's exhausting, but yes.
It's exhausting. And then 5 minutes later they're back in bed. And as a person who's been part of that family, you're like, why can't you fake it for us?
Yeah.
You can do it for the neighbor when she comes over, or when you have to go to a church social or whatever for half an hour, 45 minutes. But then when you get back home, you're just.
Well, because you're their family.
And so it's for people to sit there and say, "Wow, she looks like she's doing great," or "She was in such a good mood."
Now here's the other thing. If we're going to dive into that, one of the risk factors for suicide is what we talk about, a sense of resolve. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people who have been thinking about suicide, and we've talked about this a million times, the thought of life may not be worth living. The average adult, at some point in their life, there's about an 80% chance, or about 80% of adults have that thought at some point in their lives. Life may not be worth
Doesn't
it.
mean they're going to follow through.
No, because
80% of people have thought about suicide in some aspect. Not to say they want to commit
right,
suicide.
we call it an ideation. Thought, no intent.
Yeah.
But one of the risk factors that we know is somebody who's been thinking about it, or somebody who has been depressed. If you see, besides there's other risk factors, changing your will, giving stuff away, but sometimes you will see a shift from just kind of down and completely negative and completely distressed to what we say a sense of resolve, almost like a peace. And that's kind of a risk factor, because very often that is the moment, or that in that moment when they've made a decision.
Yep.
This is what I'm going to do. We also see it when people are when they're sort of coming out of the depression. They're still in it, but they're coming out because, and this is a real practical thing, when you're depressed, you don't have the energy to do anything.
Yeah.
But as you're getting slightly better, very often you're still dramatically depressed, but you have the energy, mental and other, to think about taking your own life. So that kind of sense of resolve and that sense of peace is a risk factor.
So as survivors of people that have taken their lives, and I had one of my best friends, Todd Osner, growing up, went to high school with him, took his own life, I wanted to be Todd Osner. He was great with the ladies, he was funny. He had two brothers who committed suicide, so you would have thought that he would have learned through that process. And it was a shocker. Now, I knew Todd really, really well, and I knew that he had some depression issues, but I never thought he'd be stout enough to take his own life. And ultimately, he just was incredibly insecure in a lot of different ways too. And he was always trying to be that guy that was being noticed, and he didn't have to, because we all loved him. We always, I wanted to be that guy. He was so good. So, is it fair to say that there are some cases where there is nothing we can do? I mean, I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't know what's his name again. The guy from Ellen DeGeneres?
Twitch.
I don't know if his wife saw things. I don't know if his
and
family saw
we're not
things.
gonna, and that's a great,
we all want to help somebody
right.
if we think they're going to take their life, for gosh sakes. I mean, if someone calls you at 3 o'clock in the morning and they're just like, sure, we're going to drive over there, but I think in some cases, let's throw the social media stuff out, because we know social media, people are painting a portrait or painting a perception of themselves, and that's why, all their posts look so uplifting.
Yeah, no, but this is a guy, who it was not just a social media, it's not just a social media problem. He's on the Ellen DeGeneres show. We didn't just see him via social media. And people like Ellen have said, oh my God, I had no idea. And this is someone who should work with him every single day.
She's one of them. She's like,
Now, we don't, no statements have come out from his family yet. But to your point, so I think a couple things. It is pretty rare What do you think? It's very rare. You know me, I like to do. It's very rare for nobody to notice anything and there be no history of anything.
Yeah.
And just somebody that's incredibly rare. Usually there's something. History of depression, maybe not even active depression, history of depression, maybe a diagnosis of a serious illness, those kinds, there's something. But when people have made the decision that I'm going to do it, and this is why we beg people, if you're contemplating, if you're thinking about it, call 988, that's the suicide number. Because if you're thinking about it, we can help you. And people who take their life by suicide, for the vast majority, they are doing it to end either their pain, can be psychological pain, can be from an illness, or their belief that they are causing pain to the world. Mm-hmm. And that is so hard for people to wrap their heads around, because how could you do that? You're causing more pain by taking your own life, right?
Yep.
But that is the illness.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a long way of saying, if you've made up your mind, is there anything we can do short of literally standing by you and making sure that we always say, if someone has said, I'm going to kill myself, well, the first thing we do is we say, don't leave them. Take everything away from them that they could kill themselves with.
Yep.
Guns, knives, pills, sheets, ropes, all of that stuff. But somebody who's decided to do that, they will go off and kill themselves.
Yep.
You know, and you're right, there is nothing we do. And the torture on families who have to replay in their mind, did I miss something?
Yep.
Did I miss something? You know, I knew, or even, and again, I don't know if with Stephen Bossov if this is the case, but I knew he was depressed, but he was in treatment. I knew he was, you know, as a mental health professional, it is your biggest fear. You're treating them, things seem to be going well. I will never forget the first phone call that Julie, my wife, got when one of her clients committed suicide. You know, and she's like, oh my God. I mean, she knew this person was depressed. This person was in treatment. She's doing pretty good. No active suicide ideation, nothing. And then boom.
Yeah, I mean, it's super sad. I mean, it's a wonderful life. It's running just about every hour, and that's just a prime example of it. And obviously, that movie turns out pretty good. But
well, yes.
But it is a great sign and a great movie to show just how much your little piece, your little grain of sand on the beach of life affects so many other people.
Yes. Because
in this particular case, he just says, I wasn't born. That changes everything. So. Yeah, it's sad, man. Super sad.
It is, and you know, look. So and
I think sometimes we tend to want to look past it because we have an excessive jollity, if you will, of the holidays, and how could you not be happy right now with the coming of our
watch
baby
my
Jesus
Instagram. Watch my Instagram feed. This is a big one. A lot of us.
A lot of people that have a really tough time this time of the year.
That's right, and that's, you know, dare I say. That is a part of the holidays. See, so part of the holidays, we want to believe that the holidays are about joy and happiness, and you know, in the case of Christmas, the birth of Christ, and this wonderful thing. And from a religious origin, sure, yes.
Yep.
But it is safe to say and accurate to say that the holidays are a mix of emotions. If we take everybody. And the holidays are not, by definition, supposed to be happy for everyone. Mm-hmm. Mike Leach's family.
Yep.
Everybody who has lost someone around the holidays due to COVID. You know, people are saying, well, not right now. I'm not talking about right now. I'm talking about last year and the year before.
Yep.
Everybody and if you're going to go there, I mean, again, because of COVID is unique. Every family member of somebody whose family member died on Christmas Eve.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I don't know the numbers.
Yep.
They're huge. And so we have to make sure that we embrace people, and we should be doing this every day, but we should embrace people for them and what their experience is right now. Because that is the holidays.
Get outside yourself. And I think...
Yes, that's a great point.
We're here to love each other and help each other, period. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the first two commandments. That's it.
Including during the holidays.
Including during the holidays. And that's the best time to reach out and touch people. And I think because we've gotten so isolated, I mean, think about this. We were told we couldn't get within 6 feet of anybody.
Yep.
Go throw that in a history book in 50 years. Yeah, we went through 2 years where we were told we couldn't get within 6 feet of anybody, even in our family.
Yep.
We couldn't go see our grandparents in a nursing home because, and I think because of that, we have laid some new groundwork, not necessarily, it's not good groundwork. And then you throw in the social aspects of texting, Twitter, email, things where we don't pick up the phone. I was talking to Michael Coleman from the Montgomery Food Bank the other day. We do a show called Mission Minded. He's formerly the Jimmy Hill Mission. And we were talking about handwritten notes. And he's like, every person I've ever written a handwritten note to a donor or to a person who's given to a worthy cause that I've been part of always re-ups if I write them a handwritten note. And he's like, and he goes, and that's not why I do it. Stop why I'm writing that note, but I'm thinking, he gave me $3,500. I wrote him a nice handwritten note, not just to thank you, God bless you, but hey, I really appreciate you. Your money's going to be going to this particular cause, blah, blah,
because
blah.
now it's
and next
novel.
thing you know, they're stroking $5,000.
Now it's novel.
It is. And we've gotten handwritten notes from coaches and people that have come on this radio station. I've saved every one of them because I'm like, wow, to take a few minutes and write a handwritten note, put a stamp on it and send it in the mail still means more than any type of email or anything else.
When I did that book reading with Ivan Maisel about his son and grief and suicide, and I sent him an email afterwards thanking him for the opportunity, saying how grateful I was that he was willing to share his story with our community and also with me, that I was a huge fan.
Yeah.
And he said some pleasantries back. Week later, I got a handwritten note from him. And, he's a guy of, I wouldn't say few words, but, he's limited in his, I got a handwritten note thanking me. And I felt two things. One, I was touched. Two, I felt guilty.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, I should have wrote him here.
Ivan Maisel was one of the senior executive writers for ESPN for 20 years. And continues to work.
He still covers
books,
games,
and he lost his son to suicide several years ago. Wrote a book about it, and has really turned it into the ultimate silver lining for many families, and families that just grieve the loss of. It's so hard to lose a son or lose a daughter to something like this because you always feel like as a parent you could do more.
I use this quote all the time. He references it to the loss of his son. But I use it all the time now when people are dealing with something that has happened in their lives that is horrible, traumatic, and life-defining. And Ivan has said that when he was trying to think about the loss of his son and sort of, if you will, moving forward, he said, the loss of my son becomes it becomes a just is. Meaning, it is just with me, my whole day, life, everything. It doesn't always dominate, but I don't move it past. It just is. He talks about it sits on my shoulder. And if you think about the things that have happened to us over the course of our lives, particularly things that are tragic or traumatic, they're just woven in. Mm-hmm. They just are. It just is. It's just there. And that's actually helpful for people sometimes because people are trying so hard. Oh, I got to get past. Not that I want to forget it, but I got to get it back here. Nope. Just is, just there, and then you go and do it.
Sometimes it's just picking up the phone and talking to somebody. I mean, yep. I do it with you all the time.
Yes. Yep.
I don't want to bother you with my issues. But I know you're my best friend, and I know you'll listen to those things, and certainly life is hard on everybody. But I do have my resources, and I have my people that I reach out, and sometimes I try to sprinkle in good stuff too, and I did it this morning. But sometimes it's just talking to somebody. I mean, and that, and I know that the 988 thing has gotten a bad rap because they're not licensed suicide professionals, they're not counselors and all that. Sometimes, man, just talking to a stranger, just getting on the phone and talking to anyone that will listen is enough to get you through that moment to go. I saw this, and then we'll let you go. We got to be on Fox 6 here at the bottom of the hour. We got some time here. I was watching one of those SOS, what would you do situations where people get lost in the woods or lost, and
that's the same as dude, you're screwed.
No, well, in this particular case, it could be.
That's a great show, by the way.
But there was this dude that got lost out, and I was thinking about you out in California, out in the desert, and only had one bottle of water. First of all, didn't tell anybody he was going for a long walk, and so he's out in the desert for like 3 days, and was like in his 50s. And was relatively healthy, and he kept going east, west, and north, but never went south to get himself out of his predicament. And he gave up. He gave up. I mean, he could have. He just couldn't do it anymore. He just lost hope. And they found him a quarter mile away from the road.
Dead?
Yeah. He had no one to talk to. He just and thinking to themselves, if he had just gone south instead of north, east, and west, he just was going in circles because everything looks the same. And so
horrible.
I guess my point is you never know really how close you are to your destination or to your finish line.
That's good.
Sometimes it's right there in front of you and you just don't see it yet because it's not God's time, it's not your time, and maybe you need to go through the strain of the challenge of having your faith tested a little bit more before you get there. And sometimes it's so close, and maybe it's something, talk about the Jews walking in the desert for 40 years. You talk about, Joseph being in prison for 7 years, waiting. Sometimes you are so close and you give up just before God delivers his promise to you. And I think it's super important to remember that. And on your worst day, you're thinking, okay, what more do I have to do? You just have to keep pushing through. We're talking about mental depression, obviously, people that have facilitators of things in their brains they can't control. But
by the way, we were complaining as Jews. We were upset with him about the first 6 weeks. Just so you know, we went 40 years, but we want to know why there was no meat. Yeah. Just letting you know.
See,
we went 40 years.
See, but when you went 6 weeks, you didn't realize you were going to go 40 years.
No. And in 6 weeks, we're ready to start. Some of us were going to, hey, you know what? At least in Egypt, they gave us meat.
What was the great...
Don't ask me a biblical thing.
No. This is about the concentration camps. What was the great story that was written by a psychologist about
Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning? Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, and his whole...
Talk about that just a little bit. Because I read it and was wow.
It is a book that everybody should read. It is not a religious book. It happened to be written by a psychologist who was a Jew who was in a concentration camp. And his whole point of it, and it was really the foundation for a lot of the way we do psychology, is that if you can find meaning in anything that you're doing, you will be able to survive. You will not give up. And so in the concentration camps, it was down to the bread that they got every third day, or sharing some of that bread with somebody else. And what he found was, okay, if I can sort of reframe my thinking, and instead of thinking about this as the most dire situation, thinking about, and it's not just gratitude, it's meaning. I'm going to take this piece of bread, I'm going to take a piece for myself, and I'm going to give a piece to this child. And on this day, I've done something that is impactful and that is meaningful. Again, not necessarily gratitude. And again, it's an extreme example. But
in your particular case, you're talking about, what would you say? Helping someone else. Because that's the meaning. You're doing something for someone else they probably didn't do for themselves. And that in turn gives them hope that they have meaning to continue not only to pay it forward, but also to live and continue to live.
That's right. Absolutely.
What's it called again? I read it. I got it somewhere.
Man's Search for Meaning. It's a classic book. A lot of people have read it, but it is a book you can read over and over. And particularly if you're in a place where you're feeling a little bit lost in the world, maybe not necessarily depressed, but I literally had a client yesterday who. She's a very prominent executive, has worked her whole career, and she said, I've just come to this point where I'm lost. I'm lost in what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. Essentially, she didn't say this, but it was, what is the purpose? She has lost meaning. And when we lose meaning, we get super ungrounded. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Where are we going with it? You find meaning, you find your path.
And that's the best time, and the reason why, and it's super hard. That's why you got to get out of yourself.
Yes.
My program and what I do.
Yes.
To sit around and let it just swell around your brain and try to control everything that's going on in your life. It is so important. That's when you put it down and go do something for someone else, whether it's bring their trash can in, whether it's saying hi to someone on the street, whatever it takes to impact someone else's life, because we are promised it's going to come back tenfold to us. And I remember reading that book, how many people in the concentration camp were around this guy going, what the hell are you so happy for?
That's a good point, yes.
You weigh 78 pounds.
Yes.
What, and just...
He's like, I get to sing. I can sing, I can say my prayers.
Yeah. Well, and we mentioned Shawshank Redemption, which I saw for the first time last week. the whole debate or conversation that Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins has about hope.
Yep.
There is no hope. And he's like, hope is dangerous. It's like, no, hope is everything. If you I'll say this too. I think one of the reasons that so many people have a hard time with the holidays is because what happens after the holidays. Mm-hmm. It's dead time. Mm-hmm. It's dead time. Mm-hmm. It's everything's dead. It's cold. Mm-hmm. All the good stuff's gone. Mm-hmm. I would venture to guess that more people probably get depressed, clinical or otherwise, after the holidays, and we know it's a real thing because all this hullabaloo and all these wonderful celebrations, and now that Christmas is getting longer and longer, we're celebrating it for 3 months now instead of 2 or 1, and then when it's over, it's kind of like, and that's why I think it's super important, and I know I griswold a lot of things too, but it's super important to continue to have things to look forward to in your life. I used to always go to Vegas in January. It was always something that sometimes I'd wish Christmas would go like quicker just so I could go on my trip. But to have those things to look forward to, it could be a year down the road, it could be next week. But to have that hope, to know that you got something good to look forward to is super important. Continue to do that. All right, we're going to be on Fox 6 a little bit later on this morning in about 20 or 25 minutes. Make sure you go check out the Tony Curry Radio podcast page. We have over 1,000 shows now. We're over 1,000 shows.
That's amazing.
We're up over 300% in the last 2 months. It's been incredible. Everything from Mission Minded, Live Wire Wednesday, the Austin Hanks Blues Almighty Show, the Damon Johnson Show. Of course, they just announced yesterday that Leonard Skinner and ZZ Top are going back on the road. Van Zandt, the lead singer, said, you know what? We're getting near the end. We're getting close to the end for Leonard Skinner. He's got a show, which could be a ticket seller.
I didn't think about it that way.
But I mean, they've been around a long time, right? And Damon Johnson, of course, plays lead guitar.
And the Rolling Stones are like,
We got Kip Keefer. We got 2 shows with Wanna Bet, making some cash over the holidays. Getting ready for the bowl season. The UAB Blazers are going to be taking on Miami of Ohio tomorrow morning at 10:30. I will be talking to Mark Ingram live in the Bahamas in about 9:45 this morning. So looking forward to having a show with him. We have the Woodhouse Baseball Show, which is a great show called When in Rome. Stuart Rome actually gets to pick 5 or 6 songs every single show. I let him pick any song he wants to play that plays on Tony Curry Radio. I go on and on and on. We have all these wonderful shows. Check it out. Of course, you can check out that Mike Leach podcast that we put together of stuff that's exclusive to the Kurre and Klapow Show and Tony Curry Radio. So it's great stuff. Check us out on Fox 6. We'll be talking more about Mike Leach coming up in just a few minutes. Anything else you want to mention?
Nope, thanks for
You're here next Thursday, right? You're not going out of town, right?
No, I'll be back in town. I'm going out of town, but I'll be back in town.
It's our big Christmas extravaganza next Thursday. It's Thursday before Christmas.
Well, what are we going to do?
I don't know, man. We're going to have more than just a couple of these.
What date is that?
Today's the 15th, so it'll be the 22nd.
So we will be on our 6th night of Hanukkah.
Oh, yeah. You need to bring a menorah in.
I can. Got a few. You want the electric one? Got like a
No, I want to burn the real candles. You got a real one?
Yeah. Got a few. Got some candles. Got them on Amazon. Got delivered yesterday. Not the menorah.
You going to order a menorah through Amazon?
Oh, you can order a menorah and candles and a yarmulke. If you want to have a yarmulke, you can have all of that.
Is it sacrilege for me to wear a yarmulke if I'm not Jewish?
No, it's not. It's a sign of respect. I mean,
it is.
No, it's not sacrilegious. I mean, it is if you're.
I would be wearing it out of respect, obviously.
I mean, if you're like la 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 la, I'm wearing a yarmulke then. But like, if you go into temples, certain temples, particularly conservative temples and Orthodox, it's required. Like, you can't go. You have to wear a yarmulke.
If you're not Jewish.
Oh yeah, anybody entering because it's deference to.
Do you have non-Jewish people go to temples?
Well, yeah. I mean, friends and family, and like when Max said
for services and stuff.
Yeah, just to get to understand. I mean, when Max had his bar mitzvah, 80% of the people there were not Jewish, and in fact, when he had his bar mitzvah, 80% of the people were not Jewish. Rabbi knew it, and so Rabbi invited up in the middle of the bar mitzvah everybody to come see the Torah.
Oh, that's cool.
People were like, it's like, come on up.
I like that.
All right.
Great stuff. Check out the great.
What do we do?
You never know. We talk about suicide.
This is non-script. Like, I hope people understand.
This is what happens when you have no internet, man. You just start talking.
We did great. I told you Don Johnson's birthday today, and I told you about the transistor. I did the Tony Curry on this day. By the way, today is International Mini Christmas House lit thing.
There you have it. I'm never worried about having a conversation with you. Oh, there's a message from Mark.
Be sure. He's saying be sure.
Okay. We'll check it out.
Okay.
All right, have yourself a great day. We'll be doing it again tomorrow. Check out our great podcast, the TKR podcast, Tony Curry Radio podcast. And certainly check us out on the TKR app. Download that through Apple and Android, Tony Curry Radio, and we'll get after it. Great new shows. And no time off for the holidays for us, man. We got fresh new shows. I want to mention, too.
We're getting a wrap.
I know. Coming up on the 18th, we're going to be doing our 2-hour Damon Johnson Christmas special. So make sure you go to wherever your podcast. It'll be on Spotify. It's 2 hours of great classic rock Christmas music with Damon Johnson co-hosting it. It's a fantastic show.
That's awesome.
It's 2 hours. You can play it. Yeah, you can play it on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. It's got Vince Guaraldi stuff. It's got some Frank Sinatra stuff, but it's got some great classic rock stuff, including God Rest You Merry Gentlemen, the version from Brother King, which is so good. So check it out wherever you get your podcast. It's worthy just to go to the podcast, Tony Curry Radio Podcast Network. Just check this out. It's great. We love you. See you. Bye.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.